Not bad. Let's see. Today's project. It is a 12 by 12 home decor project. It can be either a scrapbook page or it can be a photo share that you display on your wall. I would place it in a beautiful framed or a simple frame. 12 by 12, you can pick them up either at the craft store or online at Amazon. I am sharing with you the design I made using the gift wrapped bundle in the Holiday Mini. So simple. When you have a cutting tool like a punch, I'm cutting out the pretty ribbons and bows. I am fussy cutting one. But I love that I can stamp and punch together. So it's really easy to complete. You don't have to get the die cutting machine out. It's so simple. So in addition to the 12 by 12 bundle, the gift wrap bundle, I am using some things from the, from the Holiday Mini. My paper is the 'Tis This Season 6x6 Designer Series paper. You can see I've got a lot of little scraps in here. That's because I have been loving this paper this season. I've pulled out the patterns I'm using. It's a pretty plaid and a really simple tone on tone that I'm going to be using. So these two pages from that 'Tis the Season paper. And I'm also using some gold embellishments. So the gold embellishments come from, let me see if I can flip this to the right page if I have it marked, and I think I do. Okay, over on page 152 at the bottom of the page, there is this little Forever Gold laser cut specialty paper. So you can see you have rectangles that you can snip out, but you also have individual elements that you can pop out and use on your pages. So that means no die cutting necessary. You already have that sparkle ready to go from that specialty paper. So the next thing I'm using on this project, let's see if I've got a page marked here. In the main catalog still, there is a die set called Beautiful Bows. Or Beautiful Bows, sorry. So here we go. Let's see if I've got that handy for you. I did want to share with you. This is a die set. You can buy the coordinating stamp set, but truth be told, I do not own this stamp set. I only bought the dies, and I'm really happy that I did because let me share with you the beautiful dies that are included in this set. And I'll show you what I have created. I pre-cut what I'm going to be needing. So let's see. First of all, there's a giant branch that's really useful. There's a middle size, and then there's a single branch there. So perfect elements for the scrapbook page, but there's more. There are also these sweet little pine cones with the layer and the shape. I'm going to be using a couple of those on my pages. You have a bigger pine cone as well, and the shape to cut that out. So one or two last things are these frames, and these are perfect for scrapbooking. These are great for journaling. You can write the family name and the year on these small labels. You can add a little bit of description in one of these labels. They are perfect for scrapbooking. This is going to be a keeper for me, I know. I have been having fun creating with these die cuts, and you're going to see how I used them on today's pages. So easy to create the page. So let's see. Let me push those aside. As I said, I've already got my die cutting done so that you wouldn't have to suffer with me as I'm trying to crank through. The other elements I'm going to need, of course, are a 12 by 12 sheet of Whisper White. That is the base of my project. I also need one 8.5 by 11 Whisper White and a scrap of Whisper White. So I'm going to start off with my stamping. And for that, I'm going to use that smaller portion of Whisper White. I am going to be stamping the elements for my page. I'm going to start off with a couple of bows. that are just going to be punched, and one that has to be fussy cut. I like that smaller one as well. I'm using black, the Memento Tuxedo black ink, and I'm going to ink up nicely so that I get a nice crisp impression. I'm using my piercing mat because this is a photopolymer set. So nice firm press. Like I said, I'm going to make 2 of those. Perfect impression, I hope. Stamp down. And then one last image that I'm going to stamp is this smaller, fuller bow that I am going to have to hand stamp. Not going to lie, it takes a little bit of time. It's got a lot of curves, but it really is going to add something to your page. Now I'm finished with my stamping. I'm going to come in and color this, and I'm going to share with you how I've colored it. I've had so many questions on my coloring, and people often ask me, what color did you use to color that image? So here's what the deal is. I use my Stampin' Blends, and because they're aptly named, they are blends, and I'm blending the color. So the beauty of the blends is, 1, they make everybody look like an artist, and 2, you can add your highlights and your shadows without those streaks that come from the Stampin' Write markers. So I'm going to start off by coloring in the lightest color. I have a trio of colors here. I have Flirty Flamingo, and this one happens to be the dark. I have light Cherry Cobbler, and then I have dark Cherry Cobbler. So those 3 colors, and I also have my color lifter here at the ready. So I like to blend in the colors. I'm going to start off with that Flirty Flamingo. I'm going to do 3 bows quickly. So I'm going to color in where there would be highlights on the image. So wherever the light source would be hitting, I'm going to bring in and make that light area. And you know I am no artist. I like to color quick. I am not that detailed. There are lots of people who do just beautiful coloring. I'm in awe. That is not me. But with the blends, I can look like a professional or more professional artist here. So you can see I'm just kind of adding in that Flirty Flamingo in highlighted areas. Next, I'm going to come in with my light Cherry Cobbler. And I'm going to start off at the edges with the pen tip because I want to be careful not to go too far outside the lines. I do have the lifter at the ready, but the less cleanup you have to do, the better. Sometimes it takes different steps or various steps to get it cleaned up perfectly. So use the pen tip, come in around the edges where it's going to be a little bit harder to control. As well, my blends are shared with my stampers, and so often the brush tips tend to fray at the edges or they tend to split. So it's a little bit easier to control when you are the only person using the blends. Otherwise, use the pen tip and you'll be a little bit safer, not having a wide brush that you're unable to control your coloring on. So you can see I'm just going to color in the edges, and again, this is the light Cherry Cobbler. I'm coming in and doing the edges so that I can then blend in the inner portion of the images. So here we go. So I'm on day 4. I hope that you have been catching me on my previous days. I've been posting on the website the projects. I have been posting the videos on the YouTube station or channel so that you can watch or re-watch the video if you want to duplicate the project. Members of my team, the Stamperistas, have been receiving the PDFs. That's one of the perks of being on my team. I know I've had requests for the PDFs from outside sources, but I do mention the measurements as I'm creating, but it is a little bit time consuming to create the PDF. So members of my team get that just as a benefit for being on the team. And that's posted over on our team page. So let's see. And I'm almost done. This is the painstaking part of coloring in, and you can see right now it does not look pretty. And if you craft with me, you know that I always say just persevere, keep going. It's going to come out beautiful in the end. Sometimes when we're looking at the step-by-step process of creation, it gets a little discouraging when we're right in the middle and it doesn't look beautiful yet. But just keep with it. Trust me, you are not going to need to crumple this up and start over. It's going to come through. And you're going to see in just a moment. Again, I'm just kind of coming along the edges so that I don't have to clean up too much. A little bit of time, and the images are going to be so easy to crop. At least the big bows are going to be easy to crop with that punch. All right, so I'm pretty happy with the edges there. Now I'm going to come in with my brush tip, same color, sorry, light cherry cobbler. Now I'm going to go ahead and come in and fill in a little bit inwardly. I'm going to leave some of that Flirty Flamingo exposed because those are my highlights. And I'm going to try and go in some circular motions here to get it filled in. So whoops, I went on the outside edges there. See, that's the brush tip that is harder to control. Let's see if I'm going to be able to lift that. I always like to have that lifter at the ready because it happens. And so today's gift with purchase, you will see on the page we are going to be using the red rhinestones. So we have lots of shiny on this project. We're going to have the gold foil from the laser cut embellishments, and we're going to have some red rhinestones. So if you place an order today, a qualifying order today, you will be receiving the red rhinestones. I have stampers who have been purchasing and getting extra deals, extra gifts. As well as, don't know if you noticed, on today's post, I did post a little helper for you to pass on to Santa. So I remember as a kid when I would go visit Santa, I always had a list of things that I wanted. And, you know, we'd sit on his lap, tell him what we wanted for Christmas. And don't you know, we often got what we wanted because the key was asking for what we wanted. So here I am helping you out. If you're a crafter or stamper, and you would like to stock up or fill your little craft room with your choices of items, print out this letter to Santa and the wish list and hand it over. Tell that person to call Santa's elf, otherwise known as Anna Marie, and I will gladly help them shop. All right, so I'm bringing in my color lifter. There's a couple of sections right here along the edge of this bow that I kind of crept out of the line. I'm going to try and remove that. And sometimes it does take a couple of applications. The next thing I'm going to do is come in with my dark and fill in where the shadows would be. So those darker areas closer to the knot, down around some of the deeper areas, and just those little gathering areas on the bow. I would say that these scrapbook pages will not take you too long to produce. So if you do some of the prep work like the stamped images, they are going to go quickly. And of course, once you decide which frame you want, you can just either permanent adhere them in the frame or leave them loose so that your recipient can swap them out. It's kind of nice to have a winter home decor piece and then swap out the photos as we come into the other holidays throughout the year. So some of the darker areas will be inside the folded ribbon here. That's what I'm coloring with my dark cherry cobbler, and then right in there where the gathers are. All right, so next I'm going to come back and I'm going to blend it in with the light cherry cobbler. So just applying a little bit more color in here so that it's blended in. That's the beauty of the blends. And so when I respond with, or to the question, what color did you use? There are often multiple colors because these are blends. You can make up your own colors, your own tones or variations of each of the Stampin' Up! Colors. So you will want to have the whole collection of blends. And blends are a perfect thing to put on your gift list to Santa. By the way, if you tried to shop for some of the blends, either during the sale or shortly after, you will have gotten a message that some of the blends were not orderable. Such was the case, I know, with the cherry cobbler, this very one that I'm using, but I just checked today and it's back in orderable status. So I think the sale kind of put demand on a lot of the products, but they are back and they are available. All right, ready to punch. So I'm going to bring in my handy ribbon builder punch. Or is it a bow builder? Can't remember. So here we go. I'm just going to turn my punch upside down, position it so I have a tiny outline of white in there, and do the second. And this cute little set includes about 3, maybe 4 variations of the bow. There's a plaid bow, just a striped line bow. There are several versions available. You can pick which one you like. Some of them are a little bit more elegant, a little bit more formal, and some are more casual. So I did mention I had to fussy cut this small bow. Not a problem. It's going to be pretty easy to go. There are some twists and turns that you're going to have to make, but otherwise it goes fairly quickly. And you just have to remember to turn the paper. I love to use my paper snips because they have that the short blades, and they are sharp blades, and as well the tips are very sharp. And I say that because I have experienced the jab of the sharp points on these little paper snips. And I'm just going to try and go carefully around almost up to the black line. I'm just leaving a tiny bit of white outline. And it's not going to be critical if you leave too much or too little. It's going to be beautiful. And your gift recipient, I'm going to tell you, this is perfect. It's a heartwarming gift. I know in the past I've gifted my mother 12 by 12s of various events, gatherings, and she has it displayed year-round. And I love going up and revisiting the photos time after time. It is so nice to see either how people change or how they stay the same. It just brings a smile to my face every time I look at those displays. In fact, at Thanksgiving, I was looking at one of the displays with my son and his high school graduation photo where he had long hair, and it was such a crack up to see him from a few years ago. What a changed man he is now. All right, so there we go. There are my bows. And hey, be sure to check in with me if you pop over to check out the project of the day. This is a home decor piece, 12 by 12, could substitute as a scrapbook page, and it's really quick and easy to make. So the next thing I'm going to do is prep some of my paper. I'm using the 'Tis the Season paper that has a diagonal plaid, and it's only 6 by 6, so watch how I'm going to extend it for a 12 by 12 page. I'm going to bring in my nice trimmer. I'm going to bring it down to 3 inches because that will make it 3 by 6. When I abut them together, it's going to make it, of course, 3 by 12. So there we go. Here, I'm going to adhere them to my base page. And I do have a special tool that I love to use when I am scrapbooking 12 by 12 pages, because most of the time, if you know me, you know that I don't measure precisely. I'm more of I just use an eyeball it, I say. But sometimes you do want to be careful and make sure that they're aligned nicely. So I know I'm going to bring down my designer series paper or the pattern paper so that it's about 3 3/4 from the top edge. So I'm just going to bring it down here. And what I'm going to do is mark with my pencil 3 3/4. And then I'm going to come over here towards the end of the page and again mark a little tiny dot with 3 3/4. Now I've got my T-square here, so that's going to help me as well to make sure that my paper is going on straight. So here I've got my 3 3/4 marking here and there. I make sure that I've got my T-square right abutted to the paper. And here's the easy part now. I'm just going to put some adhesive on the back. I'm using my Stamp and Seal Plus. That's going to be perfect for adhering this to the scrapbook pages. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave my tool right in place, and I'm going to abut the top of the DSP right to the base of my measuring tool. Place that down nicely. And I'm going to come back in again with my seal and going to abut that right up to the top and align that. Now, there's going to be a seam, but no worries, we are going to be covering that in just a moment. So next, I'm going to go ahead and add the elements for my photos. And what I'm doing, that's why I have an extra sheet of Whisper White paper. So I've got my 8.5 by 11, and I'm going to trim that down to 4 by 6, 2 4 by 6s. So just going to bring this in, cut at 6 inches right up at the top there. I'm going to use my cutting blade, which is already on the trimmer. And I want 2 that are going to be 4 inches. So I'm going to turn this, bring it up to 4 and cut, and as well one more time. So these 4 by 6s are the placeholders for your photos. And since I have my Stampin' Trimmer out, I'm going to cut one more piece. For my journaling, I'm going to have one of those journaling rectangles from the dies set, and I'm going to back my journaling with some of the pattern paper. So I'm just going to make a rectangle that's slightly larger than this journaling rectangle. So I'm going to bring it up to 3 inches, which is a perfect measurement. That way I can still use this sheet of pattern paper for other purposes. And then the opposite measurement is going to be 2.5. And this is going to be perfect to mount that little journaling block, which is going to have, could have the family name, could have the gathering, the date of the gathering, and that's because when you look at this beautiful display, you are going to want to remember, like, when was that? Where were we? What was going on? Why do we have these beautiful photos? Okay, so I've got some elements going on here. Now I'm going to start decorating, and I am using these very cool gold hoops. They are in the main catalog. They're called Gold Hoop Embellishments. And so they're about, I don't know, 2-inch circles. I'm just going to use one on the page. It is actually metal. And I'm just going to use, I'm going to use one on this page. And the way I'm going to adhere it, I'm going to start building, let's see. Actually, I think I'm going to put down some of those pretty bows or boughs that I had. I'm going to bring them in, and I'm going to want to create like a little wreath here. So I might just, let's see, snip off some of these branches of greenery, and I'm trying to decide which one to snip. I'm going to bring one off here, so just one branch, and the same on the other side. I'm going to try and balance it out. So to adhere the gold hoop, I'm going to use my mini glue dots, and I'm going to put on a couple because I really want it to stick. They are going to be covered with the greenery and the bow and some other embellishments. So I'm going to bring that down about 1 inch from the top and 1 inch from the side. There we go. That's going to secure it into position. Then I'm going to bring in some glue dots behind my greenery so that it sticks nicely. And I'm just going to decorate my wreath. It's kind of like a wreath. So let's see. What I'm going to do is flip one so that it's mirror image. Going to bring it over and put it right down on the other edge of the gold hoop. And don't be afraid to use your glue dots to keep everything in position. I'm going to bring in an extra glue dot and kind of secure it down right in the middle there so that things are sticking. And I want my little wreath to be a little bit fuller, so I'm going to bring in more greenery. So I'm going to trim off another branch. And remember, I'm trying to be symmetrical. So what I'm doing to one side, I'm doing to the other. And a little glue dot behind is going to hold it in position. This is going to be a little treasure. I have several of these 12 by 12s up in my house right now. Some are on the mantle, some are on the wall. All right, what do you think? It's coming along. Now the next thing I'm going to do is add my gold. And I'm taking this from the Forever Fern laser cuts. And I went ahead and went through those sheets and punched out all of the elements. That way I could see what I had available. They're much easier to manage when they are already popped out. So here's one that I really love. It has like the little balls, the little seedlings at the end there. And although it's kind of big, what I'm going to do again is snip that. So these laser die cuts are really cool. You don't have to do any die cutting. They're already ready to go. And I'm just going to put a little glue dot behind. So bringing in the glue dots. And I'm going to bring it off to one side. And I'm going to use that other little snippet off to the other side. And by the way, these Forever Fern laser cuts will take you a long way. There are many die cuts that you can pull out from this set, and it's going to go a long way for you. So there we go. Now the next thing I want to add, where's my bow? I'm going to look and see. I'm going to want to position this right in here, and I'm going to take and I'm going to snip this little edge right off of here. It's almost like a branch that's kind of sticking out. There we go. And I know I'm going to want the bow there, but I'm going to bring in one of those pretty gold pine cones that I die cut from my die set. And I'm going to give you a tip. These little overlays and the pine cones are pretty small. And while I would normally just use maybe my liquid glue, and I'm going to go ahead and share it with you, just a little bit of liquid glue on the back, as long as my glue is not clogged. And so here's what I like to have at the ready. I go ahead and I have like a tack in my tool kit and pull out that little clog that forms. I don't know if you can see it. There's always a little glue clot that forms at the tip of that bottle, which keeps me from getting my glue out. So there we go. So this is the outline, and I'm just going to bring it down in here. And then I've got the overlay, which has all the detail on the pine cone. So here's, after I was thinking a little bit, after I was thinking, I turned my brain on and realized, there's got to be an easier way than putting the liquid glue on here. And sure enough, I pulled out my adhesive sheets. They are in the catalog. I have a supply of them, and once in a while I forget how handy they are. Let me see if I can show you. On page 162, item number 1, adhesive sheets. The reason that we have those is you just need a tiny snippet. You pull a 1-inch square off you adhere it to the back of your paper, you die cut it, and then you're going to go ahead and remove that layer, that sticky layer, and voila, it's already sticky. You don't have to fuss with liquid glue on those tiny areas. So there's how it's going to look, and I think I'd like to balance that out with another pine cone on the other side maybe. And I did, remember, I started thinking after I was working. So this one already has the adhesive backing on it. I'm just going to put it in an angle in there, and hopefully this is another one that has the adhesive backing. And if you can't remove the backing, bring in your Pick-a tool, and hopefully that will help me remove. Let's see, one of these does not have the backing. That's what the problem is here. Let's see, kind of hard. There we go. With the Pick-a tool, it's just get it in under there and it'll pull that off. Turn that over. You've got your adhesive already on there. The next thing I'm going to do is put my bow on there. And for that, I am going to use the glue dots. And I'm going to be pretty generous with those glue dots because I really want it to stick. I'm going to stick it right on there. And voila, ready to go. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to push out some of those extra elements. Now we do have this seam coming right down the middle. So what I'm going to do is make sure that I position one of the photos over that seam. And so I'm going to put these two here. And I am going to consider where I want to place my other embellishments, because I know I have another bow that I did, one of the bigger bows. I'm going to want to put it over by this photo, and I'm going to want to use one of the green boughs right here, and I'm also going to want to use more gold because I think, you know, you can never have enough sparkle. So I'm going to bring another pick in right there. The bow is going to go right about here, so what I'm going to do is put some glue dots behind here, and I'm just going to go direct to the paper. So with my paper snips, I'm going to pull off the glue dot. I'm going to come back in, kind of lift my greenery so that it's right in position already, push that down, and I also want to put some glue dots on my laser cuts so that they stay in position here. So just bringing that in there. Now I'm ready to adhere my photo mat or my placeholder, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere using my Stampin' Seal Plus, and it's going to come over about an inch from the right and maybe about an inch down. And I'm not measuring, I'm just eyeballing. And last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in my bow and place it. Notice how I'm going to put it up towards the top so that if I need to slip the photo in underneath these ribbon tails, it's going to be really easy to do. So glue dots behind. And you really want to make sure that they stick, so be generous with the glue dots. And position that into place. So pretty. There we go. I'm going to now put the left-hand photo in. I'm going to try and put it right over that middle seam, so it's going to go up towards the top. I am going to want to put more greenery at the bottom, so I'm going to bring that in. Then I'm going to bring my greenery down here for the bottom, have it peeking out there. And I want some gold. I'm going to bring in one of those little laser cut leaves, and I'm going to slip that underneath where I want it to peek out. There we go. So again, once I have it positioned, I just bring in my glue dots, lift the cardstock, and secure it into position. That way it's where you want it. And I need to put that gold in position. And again, just pulling it up and under. And I'm going to put my Stampin' Seal Plus behind. And again, let's see if I can do this. I'm going to bring it in just underneath these pine cones. If I can lift there and bringing it over. It goes a little bit higher. And it's about 2 inches from the left. There we go. And we have a couple more elements to do. We have our journaling block. So I've got my pretty pattern paper. I am going to secure my rectangle to actually write on. Just a little tiny bit of liquid glue. Center it onto that designer series paper. There we go. And this is going to be positioned down at the bottom, kind of overlays the photo. So bringing it in a little bit closer. And because I'm going to want a photo behind, I'm not going to put any adhesive up here at the top. I'm going to leave that exposed. So what I'll do is put my Stampin' Seal Plus at the bottom of the journaling block. That way I can kind of push the photograph underneath once I have it. And I'm kind of trying to decide, I kind of want it centered there. And there we go. So here is, oh, we're going to add just a little bit more sparkle. Let's put in some sparkling rhinestones. These are going to be my gift to you if you place a qualifying order today. And I like to go in 3s, so let's put 2 together down here and 1 a little bit higher. And the same on the other side. So let's see, 1, 2, and then here we go with 3. And there is your home decor piece that is a perfect gift for dear friends or loved ones in your life. You're going to want to take some of those photos that are stuck in your phone, print them out and place them into position, or if you're having some nice photos with Santa taken, those would be perfect to place